Hey, welcome back. We have a knife here, one I've been hoping to get my hands on for quite a while. I'm going to open this, or at least get it out of here off screen. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and for me, this was a somewhat polarizing design. This is the Brown Knives Servo. It's an older model. So I was waiting to find one because I've been wanting to get a sampling. Oh, I'm totally wrong. Look at that. I got a few Brown Knives coming in this week. And this one is not a servo at all. In fact, wow, it is one that I don't find polarizing at all. The Brown Knives Cortex. A beauty of a knife that is highly desirable and sought after by the Brown Knives collecting community, and one that I think is pretty universally respected as gosh, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it, a glassy drop shut kind of knife. And you gotta make sure they're adjusted right and everything, and every time I get one of these, they're either too loose or too tight. This one feels like it's very tight, so it's probably in good shape here. But I had not yet had one that was a frame lock, and I'm a big fan, if you've watched the channel, of this style of sort of simple titanium finishes, whether it's, oh, I actually meant to grab this one, the Demco 8020 full size here, the Rockwall. I even upgraded the scales on my Demco, I'm sorry, on my Demco, on my Hogue, in order to, the Hogue Deca is where I was going with that, in order to look kind of like these. So I'm a pretty big fan of this style. And Craig Brown does a lot of different finishes on his knives. I'm really a big fan of the different finishes he does, but there are some that I like more than others, and this one's one that I really like. So this is a version 2. You can tell because the pivot collar has a little ring around it. So it's a Cortex version 2. I unfortunately don't have my version 1 right now. I'd put it side by side, but it's over at a friend's house. He's checking it out, which I'm really excited for him to see what it's all about, what the glory is that has me so excited about these knives, even though they're not being made anymore, but why I think they're worth kind of owning and having. So he's so far in violent agreement with me that it is a really fantastic knife. There's one thing which I'm always a little unsure of, which is the reverse here. It's not hard on the finger, but it's almost so light that sometimes I just kind of flop it out. So let's see if I can get it. Nope, see, I failed it again. It's very hard to load up on it. So it's very easy to do, but hard to load up on. There's not a lot of room to grab on here, and you're like pushing it. It's a very light detent. So I tend to fail this reverse quite a bit here. There we go. So I don't do the reverse much on it, but it's also a very gentle flipper. Yeah, it's just a really sweet little knife. Let's see how the edge is on this particular one. I believe this one was supposed to be pretty much new in box, more or less unused. I don't see any real indication of use here, which is great. As a collector, that's really what I look for. Something that's very immaculate where I can. It's not always what I bring on the channel. Sometimes I'll just bring in a user, go put it to the use or whatever. But yeah, this is feeling great. And one of the things I was kind of curious about was, different frame locks let you put lock bar pressure on there in different ways that make it, harder to deploy. And I was curious how this one would feel. You can definitely put lock bar pressure on there, which is, there's, just to be clear, there's a bolster lock version of this where from here down is, you can't get yourself, but you still can up here. So to me, the place I'm probably going to get myself when I go to deploy, for instance, a thumb, is right there at the top and a little bit here, and probably, I don't know if this will really make a difference all the way down there, but anyways, there's a couple different places that you can, fail your deployment while you're doing it. So I think when you're going to front flip this knife, you can put a little pressure here, but it almost like makes it better because it gives it a little, or I said front flip, I just meant when you use the flipper tab, it almost makes it a little better because it adds a little detent, if anything. So you don't really feel like you're gonna get yourself in trouble. Just again, the action is so good. Reverse flick I think is pretty natural for you to be fairly off of the lock bar. So yeah, feels good. I'm impressed. This is looking good. Let's see if we can grab the COA out of here real quick and sort of show that. Sometimes people end up putting the knife in this, but usually when you get them from the factory, I believe this is in here. So that's number 313 Cortex V2. Just a full titanium frame lock. It's not his most expensive build by a long shot. He had some very expensive high-end builds for the Cortex with Damascus and Damasteel and bolsters and Damascus on the handle and stuff. And this is not his craziest one, but it was still probably a $850 knife or something like that. 850. So it's a high-end, very nice precision knife, a really nice little gentleman's knife if you want to use it for that. It's a little on the big side for that use case. Like, it's not small. There's a Demco 80 20.5, so it's the same length as a 20.5, but it is a little narrower and kind of lighter carrying, so pretty good for that use case. Yeah, it's just a little sweetie. The one thing I have to say I don't like about it, it does give you a good purchase, but this thing's very sharp here on the fuller, and it's one thing I do not like about these very much. If I were to carry it a lot and try and make one of these like a carry knife, I'd probably sand that or have it refinished or something professionally to make it a little more comfortable, because when you go get it, if you get the meat of your finger on that, it kind of feels like it wants to take some of that off there. You can kind of see it happening even a little bit there. It's not a huge deal, and again, the D10 on these is not terribly strong, so it's fairly benign, but there's a little bit of feeling like you're putting your finger into a fruit peeler or a vegetable peeler or something like that when you do that. This one has a very nice subtle backspacer. There are some that have very extravagant ones, either anodized or Damascus or other things, zirconium, etc. Very subtle. On the pocket clip, you could, I believe in a lot of these, customize the pocket clip to match. The prior one I had bolsters, so it was fat carbon bolsters from here down, and it had the same diamond plate, and then it had the diamond plate on the actual pocket clip. But I rather like this look. I think the diamond plate is very cool looking on the pocket clip, particularly with the bolster where it's kind of further away, but I think it might be a little much in this sort of full tie. I think it's nice how the pocket clip kind of stands out. So yeah, really just a very nice knife as per usual from Craig Brown. Look at the detail in the diamond pattern there. It's one of those things you don't even really notice with the naked eye, but you go zoom in and he's done a little something extra there yet again to put a little extra texture on top of the actual diamond plates, which is, diamond texture. It's pretty wild. Yeah, they're just beautiful, beautiful knives. Again, here you can see in here the V2 version, which has the collar, pivot collar, which is really nice. So excited to have it in the collection. You know, I wouldn't be doing a Cortex video if I didn't show the Blaine, or a Brown knives, if I didn't show the Blaine WA, and I wouldn't be doing a Cortex video if I didn't show the Cortex brain there on the inside. Let me even get a little more light on it, because this is a pretty cool little feature of this knife. He has this really cool brain Cortex stamped on the inside there, or milled into the inside there, which is pretty neat. And then you got Blaine, Washington, USA on the other side there. So all for now. I hope you enjoyed this one. Glad to have this guy in the collection. Really feels like a nice little fit. And I will see you on the next one. Take care.